Welcome back, guys, to the fitness podcast. I hope you guys are obviously enjoying your Friday. And yes, subscribe, share, listen to this, friends and family. Today, we're going to discuss music, actually, something that we've never really got into. And I think it's a good one because everyone here is probably going to have various different music tastes. I know me and Nate, I have various different music tastes, but we also have a combined one as well, which I think is quite cool. But let's start with M. Your favorite artists, songs, how's it impacted and how's it changed over the years, actually, because you kind of evolve, right, as an individual, so music also evolves. So let's talk about it.
Oh man, my music history has gone from, starting off with Spice Girls Represent, Backstreet Boys, Backstreet Back My Life.
If you want to be my
so obviously, like, what did you say?
Nature's singing right now.
Yeah. Obviously, as a young person, following the boy band, girl band type of music. But then as I grew up, I really got into more of the pop rocky, the punk rocky type of music. The angry teenage girl. I wouldn't say I was like an emo girl, because I wasn't, but I remember loving Paramore. Like Hayley Williams was like my top singer. Actually, I think I wanted to make music based on, I thought she was amazing. So when I decided to go and actually study music, she was definitely one of like the bigger inspirations for how I wanted to express myself. So yeah, that was 15 years ago. And if I'm gonna fast forward to today, my music taste is so more diverse, going from anything really listening to classical stuff into like literally psytrancing. So if I go to the gym, I will be more of the psytrance, dubstep, heavy electronic shit, like that just blows your head off every time. It's like, whoa. So that's kind of where I'm going now. Yeah.
That's crazy. Is Hayley Williams the one who had that song with what's that? Is it Airplanes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a classic, mate. I remember high school, you listened to that on the way to school. Yeah, just for yeah. That was amazing. I didn't realize that was her, actually. That's pretty cool. Because I guess as we get older and older, you start watching less videos, if that makes sense. You start watching less music videos. Back in the day, like growing up for myself, we used to watch a lot of MTV, like MTV in general, the channel, and you'd watch like MTV Cribs or whatever, and then you'd also watch the music videos because they were quite cool, and the songs would only be really good, like they'd have a top 10 and everything. Nowadays, no one has a clue about it, like in terms of MTV. But Nate, your music, like, how has it evolved from when you were like 10 years old to like now?
Oh, it's mental. Like, to be like the guy that listened to Linkin Park and snot.
Oh shit! In the end,
it's weird. One thing.
It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep it like literally fucking. That's a banger. And then when obviously they combined with like Jay-Z, that's when I was exposed to rap.
Yeah.
Like what an album that was. And then basically I hit 22 with like not a specific genre of things. Then I hit 22. Then I hit Ibiza. And then that just became like the trance house, flick your fingers, two-step, and that became that for a few years consistently. And then it evolved again. Like, I've never had such a diverse thing on Spotify ever than I do right now. But like, it's all based on mood, isn't it? And I think that's the conversation that we had, because I think when we were talking about mood, we were talking about music a couple of weeks ago. I put into the chat about how I just listened to R. Kelly. I believe you can fly, and obviously R. Kelly's going through some shit at the moment. But like, whether he molests kids or not,
he did that.
He rapes women, right?
He rapes women, but he's got some bangers. Like, he's
definitely have some bangers.
Yeah, and like I was listening to that.
Well, right? It's the same thing everyone says about Michael Jackson's like, look, what do you really believe in? Because he's still got bangers, right? I mean, did he molest the kids or did he not do it?
But I think you have to separate the artist from the man as well.
Yeah.
Like everyone has I'm not like saying that what they've done is right and they should be penalized for it, but someone can still have a side of them which actually gives something good to others, even though they're inherently maybe doing bad shit. It's like sometimes we have to separate the art from the artist and from the person, because I saw it all the time with musicians. Some of my friends, I've never seen darker people and more depressed, but they created the most fucking amazing music, and it's probably because of the dark side of them.
100%. It's like Adele. Like I hope she has a breakup, because she makes some cracking music when she gets a breakup, and she doesn't have a breakup weak ass music. Like when she's got a point to prove, and she's said whatever it is, like all the bangers that she's got on that album, I think it's 19, that the album is the best one out of all of them. Like I hope she's gets to 32 and has a midlife crisis, and then makes a fucking outstanding album because of that. Like,
did you hear the latest single?
No, I haven't heard it yet, but apparently she's gone through a breakup, right?
It's about the divorce, right? It's actually pretty good.
You know who she's dating now, by the way?
Stormzy.
Nah, she's dating LeBron's agent, Rich Paul.
Oh shit!
Yeah. They're sitting courtside and everything. It's quite cool. But that's interesting actually about R. Kelly and the music and so on, because now I think about, if I listen to his music, I'm thinking he's still talking about little kids in there, in his music, right? So it's hard for me to be like remix to Ignition. It's like I know he's a kid right now. He was with her like during that time he wrote it.
I don't see nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind.
Age is nothing but a number. Didn't he have a track called that before?
Lol.
Yeah, it's mental, right?
It still doesn't take away.
Jackson, is that a young boy or what?
It still doesn't take away that it sparks an emotion in you, because at the time of where you listened to it, you were in a state, right? Irregardless of what he wrote about, but it was something that triggered you to feel a certain mood. So now that we hear it 15, 20 years later, it will bring out the same response, even though now we cognitively know that the guy was a dickhead and, molested little kids and raped women. But still, it will still spark the same emotion, because that's what triggers does. It's like anchored that emotion in you.
I think for me, that I hadn't recognized that for a long time, because the music I've been listening to is like, you'd get the chills because you took the gram of MDMA towards it when you were doing the house music. But like when I was listening to World's Greatest by R. Kelly, right? Like that is an absolute shoe. I remember listening to that in my bedroom when I was like going through some deep shit with my knee, and it just brought back like my I used to like sing that to myself in the mirror. It's like, I am a mountain, I am a tall tree, oh, I am a swift wind sweeping the country. Like I used to listen to that and I was like, yeah, I got it. Let's go. And then that all came flooding back when I listened to that song again, because I hadn't listened to it for such a long time. And obviously Space Jam, I Believe I Can Fly, best movie that I've had like ever since I was younger. Like all these little things, they bring it back. And like every time like I listen to a specific song, so like I listen to a song that me and Emily have like bonding over, which is Liv Dawson. Liv Dawson, right? You remember her, right? So
what was it? You yeah, I know it. We'll put it in the show notes. Something I can't remember the word. What's the word?
You can sing it as well. Go for it. Drop the vocals. Drop a little tutu.
I remember me and Nathan, we were walking home from doing a silent disco up in the Shard in December 2017, maybe 16. And as the party finished and we were walking home to mine, we were just singing this as we walked over London Bridge, and it's one of like the strongest memories. I think it's like we were just like, what is the word? You are all of my I can't remember the words.
Reflections.
Oh yeah, of course.
Let me see if I can turn off the crispy. We can listen to it.
Yeah.
Let's a little vocals.
Come on.
Nah, this is not working.
It's super. It sounds emotional, doesn't it?
How'd we get here? And how do I get away?
Anyway,
This one. And then we actually went to see her live, and it was such an anticlimax because she was just so it was so beautiful, but it was still like she was so shy on the stage, and we were like,
And it was like I was moving to Dubai, and we did that this whole month of where me and Emily did things every single weekend. We did the Shard, we did dinners
Sweden.
out like Sweden. My mum came out to London. We did dinner with my mum, and then we did all these different things. And then we're like, I'm there ready to go to Dubai the next day, and we're both sitting on the edge of Emily's bed, listening to that song, bawling our eyes out.
We just watched Shrek, and they were like sitting like crying, like
It's hilarious.
I forgot about that.
That's what you talk. Actually, Em, you said something about musicians are quite dark. The same thing with like Amy Winehouse. Like her music's amazing, but she went through like her documentary. She's like, she had to shoot up drugs just to make music. How mental is that? Why is that? Why is it the case? Like, you've got some musician friends, right? And you also wanted to get into music as well. I know you're crying right now. Like, I don't know if it's for Amy Winehouse, where you just crying the song. But like, we've seen obviously musicians die at a younger age than any other kind of like, let's say any other format or any other profession, basically. Like, I watched Amy Winehouse's documentary and I was like, damn, she had no purpose apart from like, she made one banger and then after that it was like, I have so much pressure, I have to escape from the pressure. Which is kind of going into like a different tangent about musicians right now, but like, why is it that they're just the darkest out of the lot? They always say about comedians something similar as well. Like, comedians also feel the same way. Is it because it's a drug? Like, you have to make that one banger and then you get validation, and then after, if you make one shitty track, everyone's like, you're crap, you're the worst person in the world, or that kind of stuff. Why is that?
I don't think it's the truth, though. I think it's something that it's a belief system that if I believe that I make my best art when I'm in a specific state, then I have to go to that state. And in order for me to be better than I was last time, maybe I need to go to a deeper depth of that state. So I don't think it's how it is, because I look at my friend Marie Dahlstrom, and she releases so much music all the time, and it's always fucking amazing. And I'm sorry, I'm swearing because it's that good. And she's in a good state, but she also made a conscious thing about, I don't write out of a destructive place anymore. I don't have to find creativity based on my emotion. A creativity, like a creative process, it isn't just an emotional thing. It is actually a process. And once you learn the process of creativity, you don't need to like put a state on top of it, unless it's like that thing that you really want to go to. But I think we can separate creativity from emotions as well, even though, of course, emotions can shape, form, and color creativity, but I don't think they equal each other.
That's a banger. Like if we look at, and then you can put that context into sport, right? It's like it's popularized to come out of a dark place to be the GOAT, right? Michael Jordan, But reality is, if you stacked up every single GOAT and every single higher level elite sports player, they're not all coming from a place of negativity, and they don't have to be a dickhead to make the best moves or be that best player, But it's popularized because actually it's the one that's like shown to be grinding, to be like, oh, you have to go and do this, you have to go.
Story, right?
Pardon?
It creates a better story overall.
Yeah, the narrative is really, really strong. The narrative of, oh, I hate all my competitors and that's why I drive fucking hard, or I have to go into a deep place to perform my best. It's like, well, nah, like Em said, it's like it's a choice to go to a deep place to get that out of you. Whereas, what about if you didn't do that and you're like, I'm just going to perform as best as I can today, and I'm going to do as much as I can, and I'm going to work as hard as I can, but I don't have to channel any inner divorce to score 50 again in the playoffs.
Yeah, and also we mentioned that, I think, in a previous podcast, what is your self-talk before you go and lift something heavy? Yep. Mine isn't like, you fucking suck, you cunt. Like, that's not what I say to myself. Because I've worked with people who use that type of talk to themselves to think that they could like go to that level of intensity. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I think whatever works for you, but I don't think it has to be from a destructive place. I think we can choose to find equal amount of power from a positive place. We just need to know how we channel that, right? I don't think we have to go to there's no more power. There is no more power at pain than it is from desire if we truly know what we're tapping into. I don't think so. But if you don't know why, like that empowerment, what it is, and you trying to tap into it, maybe the pain will be a stronger power because you're so associated to it. But a lot of people want to be associated to their pain, to why it's poor them and poor me, and and instead of going, okay, but what if I choose the other way? What if I choose empowerment every day and light, and seeing the power in that choice rather than thinking that I have to be here in order to move forward?
Yeah, but it's quite rare, though, right? Like if I'm a big fan of like firstly on rap music and hip hop genre. Eminem's got essentially 8 Miles his whole story, right? He goes like, I suck, I do live in a trailer, I do this. It's a whole struggle, which they paint. Like even if I look at historically, even from like the early days, from KRS One, Rakim, all of them spoke about the same thing, which is I grew up in the hood, I grew up in the struggle. Jay-Z talked about selling crack in the streets, all that kind of stuff. That's how they perceived it. I guess we spoke about it's a narrative, right? They want to paint a narrative. It may not be as accurate, to be honest. You may just be like you hang around there for a couple of days. Now that story sounds a bit better. Even to this day, if you look at like Stormzy's music, it's still very going to be similar. Is it part of their life, or is it just the narrative sounds a lot better, so I can now resonate a bit better?
There's a differentiation between coming from an environment that has created this experience versus putting yourself in a state like that. So the equivalent would be Stormzy talking about trapping and selling guns or selling drugs, but then in order to create his next album, he'd go back to selling drugs. Like that would be the equivalent of like, pardon?
Or he evolves as a person.
Yeah, but then that would like the whole Adele thing, right? It's like I hope she goes for a breakup to get to that point. It's like, well, you don't go, oh, Stormzy, I hope you go back to selling drugs again. Like you don't do the exact same thing. Or like I hope like someone loses their dad so that they could go and play better. Like Michael Jordan played that playoff game and whatever. Like, oh yeah, just one of his other parents die, and then maybe he'll drop 70 against the Bulls, or whatever. Like it's the difference between speaking about the environment and the place that you grew up in terms of experience, and then also equally putting yourself in that state again for the choice of performing the best. Like I think, I believe in them. I think you don't need it, and it's not necessary for growth. It's just sometimes easier because it's a switch.
I always think they come from like a messed up environment. Like a lot of them, like Michael Jackson, his dad beat him up to like a pulp basically. That's the reason why I got into music at that age. He actually got forced to get into music because they were like, you need to do this. There's like several documentaries in that. There's other musicians as well, right, who've gone through like a really fucked up kind of childhood, if that makes sense, or kind of just grew up in a weird way. And then with rappers, when I look at them guys, they all got PTSD just from their lives, basically, how they grew up, gunshots everywhere, like pretty sure. And then I look at like someone like Jay-Z, who's my favorite artist. He went from talking about being in the streets, then talking about music, talking about like he brags so differently in his music. He's like, I've got this painting which is worth more than like two of your houses, whatever. But he would just say it in such a subtle way where he's evolved. Now he's talking about marriage, he's talking about this in his music, which I think, like I said, it's an environment that you're in after and the state you go into, like from where you were in 90s to where you are right now in 2021, 2022, which is quite interesting as well. But yeah, I think it's interesting. And then what about music from a perspective of like training? What do you use for training yourself, or do you listen to music during training or not really?
Yeah, I think, because there's music at any gym that you go to, and it's always the same freaking playlist. And I don't know, like they put on some ballads sometimes, and I'm really thinking, what is this customer service? I'm here trying to like get my groove on and like go for something hard, and here you are playing, I don't know, Celine Dion with a little bit of maybe like a beat next to it. It's like, no, this doesn't work anymore. No, but as I say, like I tend to put on psytrance because it's very repetitive, and there's like no real like depth to it. There's no words. Sometimes there's words. I can fucking listen to songs and get so entangled into words, and I'll be, they speak to you, And I get really excited about music. Music is so powerful. I use it every day to put myself in state. And I think it's the quickest way you can change your state, except apart from doing something physical, like radical, from sitting to jumping, you change your state, full stop. If you're in a bad mood, just jump 10 times up and down as hard as you can. You're going to be less in a bad mood. But if you incorporate that with music, which has an emotion anchored to it, you can really elicit some really amazing energetic shifts. So in the gym, as I say, it's like pretty hardcore. Like people go like, whoa. And it started, I must actually thank Luke McGurk for this, because I think due to his playlist on the gym floor, I was like, okay, house, nice. I like deep house. I like this. Going to Ibiza with Nathan, like we were going out and I was like, actually, this is quite nice. So it's really evolved from something of like, I didn't like electronic music at all, to like going to the softer house, to the deeper house, to a little bit of techno with lyrics, to now literally nothing, and it's repetitive. There is just weird sounds. It's just dirty, and I love it. So yeah, that's what I do.
For me, it's like I go with like two options. One is like grime, and it's like that hard like vocal side of things, like I'm gonna shoot your mum, shag your dog, whatever it is, like, and the other side of this, like, I really enjoy just like, I got my water bottle or whatever. Like I was doing it today. I was just like, let me see if I can do an example. It's like I'm just sat between sets and I'm just like two stepping from side to side, tapping my water bottle because I'm listening to the beats, and then you just like that, and then you go into your set and do that, and like that repetitive nature where you just like do that over and over again, and it just keeps on going in your mind, boom, 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 and then next minute you're in back in your set again, and you're doing the same thing over again. I think it helps with less distractions. Vocal stuff for me is great, but it's only when I'm like supercharged in my head. Whereas if I don't want to be supercharged, I'm already like in my head, I'm already thinking about a million different things. I just need something on the loop to be able to, 3 or 4 different songs. It's like do 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 do, and then you're like, yeah, I'm ready to roll. And but the state changes, like whether I sometimes forget how important it is and how powerful it is. So like even in my day to day, like even when I'm on that scooter driving to work or going to a coffee shop, I haven't put music on for a long time, and I put some chilled stuff on, and I'm like, oh fuck, it just makes everything better, right? It just makes the day better, it just goes better. Just makes that moment just a little bit more special. You're focused in, you're not thinking about other things. You're just dialed into whatever chill vibe you're listening to. So
you mentioned about like an influence from someone else with that music. Has environment really dictated, like for both of you guys as well, like differences in music? Like Nate, would you have listened to grime if you just grew up in Liverpool your whole life, basically? You may have not. But do you think living in different places has impacted it or not really?
I think that you'd say so, right? You'd say that like the exposure to salsa, the exposure to that type of stuff, then changes based on where you are. I mean, for me, my soundtrack has always been exposure to people and their playlist as opposed to the place. Like when I was in Peru, I wasn't listening to Peruvian music, or like if I was in like LA, I wasn't listening to like Mexican like Latino music, but it was more just a case of exposure to people are, have you listened to this, or what are you listening to? Okay, cool, we'll play this together. And it's always been that as opposed to anything else.
I think environment has a huge impact. Like when I was a teenager, like early teens, I mean, I was more of a dance hall kind of girl because I grew up in a quite multicultural, like when we had discos, we had dance hall on, like bump and grind,
And be whining.
I was whining. Trust me, I was whining. So, I think definitely an environmental and the people you associate yourself with, for sure. Which is why like it evolves, because the people you surround yourself with evolves, and then. Like as I said, like Nathan said, like I picked up salsa as a hobby, and all of a sudden I was listening to a little bit more salsa and more rhythm stuff, and then it evolves again, and then so I don't think it just, you're going through phases, and there's like a maturity thing, and yeah,
I'm with you on that, because I think even for me, everyone I grew up around listened to rap and hip hop, so you kind of did something similar as well. And then if you did, you'd actually like, I wouldn't get bullied or anything like that, but maybe back then you can call it bullying. You'd be like, hold on, you haven't listened to this new music? What's going on with you? What's wrong with you? And everyone would just be like, what do you mean you haven't listened to this music, etc. So like everyone I was around with in high school, college, and then even university to a large extent. Uni was a bit different because you kind of get exposed to new music as well, because there's, you get people from different countries, you get people from different parts of England, as well as that, and then you're like, oh wow, there's new music here, there's new music there, as well as that you start getting clubbing and stuff, and there's house music, or there's different music completely, which I think is quite cool. I remember Nate, also when we've traveled a couple of times, you've also played like your music. I'd call it your music, but which is decent. Even now, I wouldn't normally get into it, but I'm like, listen, I'm like, all right, you know what? Especially check-ins. Do you remember check-ins? You
Yeah.
always play something up, and then I'll be like, and what happened was it would just get you in the zone, weirdly enough, and I'll never use it, but I'll just be like, yeah, yeah, cool, and then you're literally just nodding, 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 and then you're just doing it, and Nate would just go boom, boom. He would just start flicking his wrist out of nowhere. I don't know what's going on here, but he just started doing that, and then next, it'd just be like you'd get into the zone, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was no words to it. It was just like it was just good beat, right? From what I remember. And then in the car, we'd listen to like hip hop or something like that. It would be like Meek Mill, something that we'd associate to like hyping us up. So choosing music for different environments definitely did work. And also different occasions. So like if we went to like Philadelphia, we're like, oh, we're entering Philly right now. Get Meek Mill on, because that's his like he's the, the hometown rapper basically, and all sorts. So yeah, I think environment definitely plays a huge role in how you diversify your music. I don't think my music is that diversified, to be honest. In the last 15 years, if you ask me what's my music right now, it would still be a lot of the artists I still listen to growing up, even in high school, same artist. The new music now, I still struggle with now, actually, I say, especially hip hop. Like a lot of the new ones, I'm like, who's this? Who's that? Who's that? Like I'm turning into that old dude basically. That would be like, oh, my music back the 90s was the best. I'm now turning into that for the 2000s and the late 2000s, which is not the greatest. How about now? Do you guys still keep up with like the new music to this day as well, like to the T, or not really?
I think what Spotify do a really good job of is like, and with most internet AI at the moment, is like they'll put something in front of you that they think that you're gonna like, and more times than not, they're right. So I've got like obviously the two things on Spotify, which is release radio or radar, and then the other one is new releases or something, and I basically just click on those, and it's dependent on what you've listened to before. Will they do it again? So like if I have a week of listening to grime, then on that release radio the next weekend, the half of the tracks will be the new grime ones, and if I listen to house, then the week after that, the half the new tracks will be the new house tracks. So that's how I keep up with the new music. And the other way that I keep up with new music is Shazam. So like if I go to a set, or I'm gonna I'll go to like a rave, and then someone will play a song that you've never heard before, straight to Shazam, and the next minute it's like the new song that's trending. So they do. If you go to live events, you do a really good job of staying ahead of the curve, because you'll hear a song like, who is the like even the Drake album, right? Like he was playing some of those songs a few months ago, it's one of his concerts, or even Kanye did some closed concerts, but then the music got leaked anyway. So then you've listened to one of their songs already before the album comes out, so that you already know what it's about, and then your next minute you're like, yeah, fuck, oh yeah, this was a good one, this, because you've listened to it 7 times before you even know that it's there.
I think that's the thing though, like if you think about music now, it's always going to be especially in like the hip hop world, it's always the same lot. Like for Drake music gets released, everyone's on it, like everyone reshares on Instagram and their stories, etc. Kanye, everyone's getting excited for it. People talk about it quite often. The podcast I listen to, they'll be like, oh, did you hear that new Kanye music? Whereas you don't hear too much about new artists unless they do something crazy, whether they kill someone or you hear about, etc. Like I hear about rappers sometimes after they've died. Like, not gonna lie, Pop Smoke, I heard a lot about him after he died, and I was like, oh, let me go check his music. And I'm like, oh, it actually wasn't too bad. But would I have heard about him too much then? Probably not. It's one of those situations as well. But like, yeah, what about you, Em? Like, do you still keep up with the new school?
Nah, man. Like, honestly, I don't. I really don't. I have my friend Emily. She literally, we have 2 playlists get together. One which is called Trip into Space, for a good reason, and and one is called Sweetest Moments, which is a little bit more low key. And she's doing a good job adding songs to that one, which I would have never found. Like I don't go and find music. And then I have a third playlist which I call Morning Vibes, which is so nice to put on in the morning because it just puts you in a good mood. It like lightens up your day, your spirits, and just yeah.
How about we've never actually talked about like concerts and like live music basically. How has that changed for you guys as well? Like, have you gone from like one end of the spectrum to another when it comes down to live music, or you're like, actually, no, I want to put when I'm paying for something, I want to make sure that I know I'm gonna like it, or do you just go and like, let me go check out Wireless today and then go to like a house music festival instead the next day? Does it? Have you done that or not really?
No, I've done both to be honest. Like I've done like people that I've been listening to as well. So I went to see Sam Smith live at the O2. I've seen like all of the DJs that I really love in Ibiza or around the world. But then equally, I've been to some, and they're not like even the one that's me and them went to see that Liv Dawson person. There's obviously people with before them or after them that you like. Oh shit, they slap. They're really good. And then you end up shazamming them, and then you end up following them, and then you listen to their next music, or you end up seeing them trend on Instagram like that guy. Another guy who serenades his missus and says some really inappropriate shit. The Latino dude, he's fucking hilarious. But like he'll do some antics like that on Insta. It'll get trending, and you go and listen to his music, and it's like it's great. Or the guy, something MC Mickey or something like that. Like Little Dicky, that's his name. Little Dicky wrote. He's on. He's crazy, but like he's on like a TV program, and then basically you watch the TV program, and then you're like, oh fuck it, like I need to go and listen to his music, and you go listen to his music. It's hilarious. Or the other guy that goes on Mac, someone Mac, who basically goes on to that Smiggle, is it? Where it's like a webcam thing from back in the day, but it's like new, where he raps random freestyles to people on the Smiggle thing, where like, you can just click next on people, and then random people turn up who are just sitting there waiting to talk to people. And then basically he'll like rap to those people, and then you hear them and then whatnot, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna listen to his music now. So like there's so many ways to connect now and so many ways to be exposed to that new stuff. But I think concerts are always special. Like they have to now become an experience as opposed to just listening to the music. Like people are now expecting to go and have it like a theatre production as opposed to just listening to the music. I know we've listened to a few podcasts together, like the same ones, and they're like, you know, when I go to a Drake concert, it's an experience. When I go and see Andrew Schultz as a comedian, it's an experience. But when I go to these other people that don't put enough into the budget or whatnot, or the experience side of things, you're just going to listen to their music. But there's like Em said at the whole beginning of this, is that music creates an emotion. So should the live shows. They should be representative of the song that's playing at the moment. So the mood is set, the lighting, the ambiance, the dancers, the no dancers, the single on the stage, whatever it is. It creates that experience. So I think more frequently, the pressure will be on those people to create those experiences, as opposed to just like randomly seeing people nowadays.
Yeah, because you have to. It's like creating new fans as well, because there's gonna be like new people that are gonna come through. Like, oh, what's Drake about? And if he gives a lackluster performance on that day, you know, he's not gonna. They're gonna be like, look, he's just crap, and they're not gonna even gonna listen to it again. It's just one of those. We're quite, as a crowd, we're quite harsh generally, right? You know, if someone performs quite badly, like, who cares? No point. Unless they come out with another banger, but they're like, you know, there's always historically some people are really crap live as well. That's another issue. So like their performances are never going to be great. Like they can't auto tune that well or whatever it is, and then you listen to them, you're like, whoa, they sound way different on Apple or Spotify or whatever platform you listen to. So I think that obviously does definitely contribute to it. At the same time, but I agree with the experience side of things, because it's a show now. It's not just, you know, you're sat there and you know that's pretty much it. It just depends on what's going on as well. But how about pop music? Anything with pop? Ed Sheeran? Nah, not really anymore. Remember, Ed Sheeran used to bang when I was in college, to be honest. A-Team and that.
When he was on YouTube, it was mental.
Yeah. Like, remember, you just
Back
pop
in
up.
SB TV.
Yeah, SB TV. Yeah, that was a great place. Yeah, that was a great place as well. That's when, like, a bit of kind of, what would you call Ed Sheeran, though? Is it pop? I don't know.
He used to just be an acoustic guitar and a fucking ginger guy.
Sing song.
Singer-songwriter.
I don't know why I call him that. I don't know why I classify him, because he's in every like kind of genre, if you can call him that. He can do a rock music song as well if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd go and see him live, like for sure.
Yeah,
he'll do. I mean, the acoustics would bang, right?
Yeah.
Just need a guitar and a mic. That's all he needs.
So here's a question for you guys then. What, if you can come up with one on top of your head, is there a artist or a DJ or something which you have gone to which over exceeded your expectations, where you're going like, whoa, I didn't expect this to be this good?
Me, I'd say Drake. When I saw him 2 years ago, it was like really hyped up, and he sold out the O2 4 nights in a row. And I went to one of the nights, and I was like, I didn't expect him to be that great, but then he brought up guests that we didn't expect. He brought up Future, brought up J House from prison. It was released that day, and he did. Did you see? And the whole crowd just went crazy. It wasn't just Drake, but also the people who brought along. But I also think he did quite well. Like I wanted some of the old school tracks, and he played them. And I was like, some of the people just didn't know around me because they're quite young. So the ages in the group as well, by the way, some of them were like in their 30s, late 30s, and then you had also 18-year-olds. So like the group was so diverse, which obviously credit to him because he's gone from like where he was like 10 years ago to where he's right now as an individual. But I'd say, yeah, probably Drake was a different experience altogether. I've been to 50 Cent show, but I didn't, it was all right, but it was just more for nostalgia than anything else. It wasn't because he was great at that time. It was just mainly because I know he's going to sing, songs from Get Rich or Die Trying, and he's going to sing all of those tracks. But yeah, I think for me, Drake.
Do it all we can't be done.
Yeah, I'd say Drake. Drake for me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I think two people that always exceed expectations. I know from a house music perspective, but like Fisher always does. His stuff slaps, but it always slaps hard. And then I think Solomon. Like Solomon is one of those guys that you listen to his music and you would not even figure it would be emotional, like on Spotify. But then you get to the event, it's the ambiance, the experience, it's the lights, it's the build up. Like he does like obviously with like rap music or singular songs, there's a song that provokes a specific emotion, right? But in like something like house music, the emotion is created through track on track on track and track to then be at a pinnacle, which he does so well. I can get shivers just thinking about it because like I was at the back of Brixton Academy with my top off, just fucking swinging it around like that. But like
One of yours.
literally, and like it was just like it just layers on top of layers, and it trains, and it gets to this pinnacle, and everyone around you has been built up like yourself, probably on drugs for the last 2.5 hours, and you're ready for it to pop, and then it finally goes, and you're like, holy shit, that 2.5 hours were worth that exact moment. And when that happens, which I never knew I didn't know that's what it was, or he builds, and until going to other artists who will just do that track on track, next banger, next banger, next banger, it's a different thing altogether. So going and spending 5 hours with the guy is an experience and a journey, and that was something that I never really experienced until I was in the moment, I was in the middle of it.
He's nailing down the foreplay of music.
Oh yeah, he
the shit out of it.
Yeah, he fucking tickles the balls hard. Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, I have one favorite band that I go to every time I can see them. Their name is Bon Iver, and it's because they're a band of like 11 people doing instruments and singing in different like.
Is it Bon Iver? Is it Bon Iver?
Bon Iver.
Yeah, skinny low. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like going to their shows, it's so simple, but the show itself is like they're musical geniuses. It's so emotionally dramatic, and then the people sing along because they're very beautiful like melodies and stuff. So I always love to go to their shows. But I think the one that I was a little bit surprised on how fucking good it was. I went to go and see Post Malone a couple of years ago in Sydney, and he was alone on stage for hours and just fucking performing his balls off. It was so good. Like honestly.
Whatever song that must have banged as well. But I reckon, when did you see him though? Because he's now fully drugged up and he's actually fucked up right now.
Yeah,
But I think back then he was all right.
This was in Sydney about 2 years ago. I mean, but he was like bringing up someone's shoe on stage, pouring in beer into it, drinking it on stage, and just like, yeah, like really, really fucked up. But like his singing, his performance, his presence, like it was incredible. I was actually quite shocked.
I love his album. His album is very, very unique as well, by the way. Yeah. What question for you lot though, by the way, is what any past artists or groups that you'd love to have gone to their concert to that you can think of right now?
Oh,
I've got one right now, which you guys will be surprised with, but I'll let you guys go first.
For me, it would be Queen. like 100% go to a Queen show.
Nate?
Cher.
Yes,
Mad random.
yes. When she does the ABBA rendition.
Yeah. And then the other one would probably be
I go for my second. I would have gone see Fleetwood Mac as well. It's also one of my favorite bands. Incredible musicians, incredible in all ways. Like, and yeah, their musicality and their, yeah, I would definitely go see Fleetwood Mac.
I'd go Amy Winehouse then.
Yeah, so I've got two. I'm gonna peak Amy Winehouse and peak Oasis.
Oasis, yeah.
And you can't go wrong. Wonderwall. Imagine that whole fucking
Oh.
crowd. Everyone knows the words to Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger.
Oh, that would be mental.
Everyone, like Liam Gallagher on the mic, Noel with him as well. Everyone there, it'll be nuts. I'm going with that one, to be honest.
That's a good one. That's
Yeah.
a really good one. There's so many that you could go back in time, even if they're not doing it now, but they did 20 years ago, and they're still hanging around now, but they're not doing it. Like Dolly Parton. Just having a good sing along,
Dude, I just go have a single one. That's why Oasis are great, because everyone knows their words. Like everyone and their granny knows it. Everyone knows Wonderwall.
Imagine Aerosmith. I would do anything for love. Oh, I'd be throwing pints all over the shop.
Or what's that one called? Don't wanna close my eyes.
Yeah, that would be a banger.
Emily's got vocals, to be honest. Next
What?
intro. I want you to do the intro from now on. Start singing.
Oh yeah, we'll do that. The Fitness Podcast.
Yeah.
That's the new intro from now on. Forget the music that we put on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an amazing podcast, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed, obviously, our music taste, the variation. We'd love to hear your, obviously, where you're at with music and how it's evolved, because obviously we've got some older listeners as well. So how it's evolved from when you first, were 10 years old to where you are now, as well as that, some of your training playlists, because we love to maybe utilize some as well. So apart from that, guys, we'll be back next week. We may talk about podcasts, maybe, potentially, who knows? We have something different anyway. But apart from that, take care.